There's a stretch of river in southern Illinois where the water runs slow and brown, and the mist rolls in thick across the trees. This is the Big Muddy River. And in the summer of 1973, this quiet place became the center of one of the strangest mysteries in Illinois history. That year, a handful of frightened witnesses claimed they'd seen something huge and foul-smelling rising out of the swamp. Police searched the woods. Reporters crowded into town. And before long, Murphysboro had its very own monster. Murphysboro sits along the Big Muddy River, tucked among farmland, forests, and wetlands. It's the kind of place where summer nights hum with insects, and the air feels heavy enough to touch. Autumn paints the trees and brings a crispy brownness to the fields of stubble. Thick roots twist through dark water. The woods close in tight. Back in the early 70s, the world was already obsessed with Bigfoot. From Washington to Arkansas, stories of hairy, human-like creatures filled the news, but no one expected anything like that here, in a quiet Illinois river town. It all began on the night of June 25th, 1973. A young couple parked near the boat ramp at Riverside Park heard something moving in the trees. At first it was just rustling. Then came a low grunt, and the sound of something large splashing through the mud. When they turned on the car's headlights, a massive figure appeared at the edge of the woods. They described it as 7 or 8 feet tall, covered in long, filthy white hair, with glowing red eyes and an overpowering stench. A smell so strong it made their eyes water. Panicked, they sped off and called the police. When officers arrived, they found large footprints pressed deep into the mud, and that awful smell still hung in the air. By morning, the story had spread across Murphysboro. Police cars began patrolling the park, their headlights cutting through the fog. Curious residents lined the roads with flashlights and shotguns, waiting to see the creature for themselves. But the big muddy monster didn't show, at least not right away. Over the next few nights, strange reports continued. A woman said she heard screams echoing through the woods. A farmer saw a pale figure crossing his field, and one police officer later claimed that the smell alone convinced him something was really out there. Fear turned to fascination, and soon the big muddy monster became a local obsession. Then came one of the most famous encounters. Murphysboro police officers Randy Needham and Ron Manwaring were dispatched to the river after another frightened call. As soon as they stepped from their car, they caught the same unbearable odor, like decaying vegetation and stagnant water. Moments later, something huge crashed through the brush. They shone their flashlights and saw a tall, pale figure moving away toward the tree line. Both officers gave chase, but it vanished into the woods. Again, the only evidence left behind were those massive tracks, 12 inches long, sunk deep into the mud. In the following days, police took the reports seriously. They interviewed witnesses, photographed tracks, and even brought in search dogs. Though the dogs refused to go into the thickest part of the woods, newspaper reporters from St. Louis and Chicago came to town. The story made national headlines. Some thought it was a prank, maybe local teens stirring up excitement during a slow summer. Others speculated it might have been a bear or an escaped animal from a traveling show. But for those who'd seen it, especially the officers, none of those explanations felt right. By mid-July, the sightings stopped as suddenly as they had started. The big muddy monster slipped back into the darkness, leaving behind more questions than answers. So, what did people really see that summer? One theory suggests a large, pale animal, perhaps a bear or even a person covered in mud, seen under poor light. Fear, after all, can twist shapes in the dark. But others point to the details that refuse to fade: the size, the smell, the footprints, the consistency of the witnesses' stories, and those glowing red eyes. In the decades since, researchers have linked the Big Muddy Monster to similar legends across the South: the skunk ape of Florida, the Honey Island swamp monster of Louisiana, all of them described as hairy, foul-smelling, and drawn to the water. Some cryptozoologists believe they might all be regional variations of Bigfoot, adapted to swamp life, or perhaps they are not special variations so much as regular Sasquatch who happen to prefer riparian environments. And then there are the stranger ideas, interdimensional beings, temporary visitors from another realm, stories that blur the line between folklore and faith in the unknown. Today, the Big Muddy Monster has become part of Murphysboro's identity. You'll find him on t-shirts in shops in the middle of town, among books and other monster memorabilia. There's no shortage of cryptid swag to be found. Local murals celebrate him. The town holds an annual festival to celebrate the Muddy Monster, and in October there is a separate Muddy Monster Brewfest. There is a prominently placed statue of the Big Muddy Monster visible from the main highway into town. The Big Muddy Monster strides in the classic walking Bigfoot pose. His expression is neutral, thoughtful even, not aggressive or angry. Visitors can pause to contemplate the cryptid on comfortable benches and a questionable angle to view him from. Within walking distance of the statue, you can even stay in a nice hotel on Muddy Monster Road. The lobby holds a piece of local history that pays homage to the town's most famous unsolved case, with a life-sized, friendly-looking, half-ton pine log sculpture by chainsaw artist Josh Hayes. Ask around, and plenty of longtime residents can still tell you exactly where they were the night the monster came to town. For some, it's a funny story from a wild summer. For others, it's something deeper, a piece of local mystery that connects the town to the great unknown. Even now, a few claim to hear strange cries echoing along the riverbank on humid nights, or to smell that swampy odor when no one else is around. Occasionally, folks still report sightings, and each new whisper keeps the legend alive. Maybe the Big Muddy Monster was never meant to be solved. Maybe it's a reminder that mystery still has a place in our ordinary lives, that somewhere between fear and fascination, we can still feel wonder, a creature born of mud, memory, and the human need for stories. Whether it was flesh and blood or just mud and moonlight, the Big Muddy Monster still haunts the imagination of Murphysboro, Illinois.